Shirota is a quiet, lonely high school boy with no friends. Every day of his life is very boring until one day, while eating lunch alone in a storage room, a girl suddenly walks in, startling him, and he quickly hides. To his surprise, the girl is none other than Takamine, the student council president. She's considered the goddess of the school, perfect in every way, always at the top of the class in both academics and sports. To Shirota's shock, she suddenly starts changing and puts on a bra, leaving him panicked and confused about why she hadn't already been wearing one. Later that day, in class, Shirota can't stop thinking about what had just happened. Just then, the teacher calls his name and hands him his exam paper. Shirota is pleasantly surprised to see that he scored higher than expected, and when it's Takamine's turn to receive her paper, the entire class is shocked since her score isn't perfect this time. Without warning, Takamine suddenly removes her underwear, and everyone around her seems to freeze in time except Shirota, who watches in disbelief. Before he can fully process what's happening, time appears to reverse itself. This time, when the exam papers are handed out, Takamine receives a perfect score. Wanting to know what's really going on, Shirota decides to confront Takamine and tell her what he saw. When she realizes this, Takamine figures out that Shirota must have seen her bare chest in the storage room. However, instead of getting angry, she acts unusually friendly and offers him a drink of water. This only makes Shirota more nervous, and he accidentally spills the water on her, but she quickly dodges it. Feeling bad, Shirota immediately tries to clean up the mess. Takamine, seeing the opportunity, decides it's the perfect time to explain her ability. She casually removes her bra, and time reverses again. This time, the water ends up spilling on her instead. Shirota, completely confused, asks her why she did that. In response, she places his hand on her chest, revealing that her bra is gone. She then explains that her ability is called Eternal Virgin Road, which allows her to undo events whenever she removes her underwear. Curious, Shirota asks where the bra goes, and she simply tells him that it just vanishes. She adds that anyone who has seen her bare chest will retain their memories of what happened before time was reversed. When Shirota asks how she got that ability, Takamine explains that it manifested after a minor incident in her past. Back in 5th grade, during the school's athletic festival, she was the anchor for her team in the relay race. She was supposed to pass the lead runner and finish in first place. However, the bento she had eaten before the race had gone bad, causing stomach pain that slowed her down, and she ended up finishing second. She couldn't accept the outcome. The humiliation overwhelmed her, and in the midst of it, she lost control of her bladder. Out of desperation, she removed her underwear, and that's when her ability activated for the first time, allowing her to reverse time and win the race. Takamine believes her power must have manifested because she's destined to always be number one. Takamine then tells Shirota the reason she shared all of this with him is because she wants him to become her personal assistant, or more specifically, her closet. Since her underwear vanishes every time she uses her ability, she needs someone to carry spare underwear for her at all times, follow her wherever she goes, and help her change when needed. Shirota is completely overwhelmed and thinks the request is insane. He then turns to leave the room, but just then, Takamine trips him, causing him to fall on top of her. She immediately begins to scream, accusing him of pushing her down against her will. Hearing the commotion, other students rush in and pin Shirota to the ground. Even the police arrive at the scene. Realizing he has no choice, Shirota reluctantly agrees to her request and begs her to reverse time. Takamine smiles and happily does so. Afterwards, she gives Shirota his very first job, helping her put on a new pair of underwear. Though embarrassed, Shirota can't refuse and reluctantly agrees. Noticing that he closes his eyes while doing it, Takamine teases him, saying she knows he's only pretending not to look, but deep down, he really wants to, and adds that she's looking forward to having him as her closet. The next day, Shirota wakes up, still in disbelief about what happened yesterday. He then receives a text message from Takamine telling him not to be late. As soon as he arrives at school, Takamine approaches him and instructs him to meet her in the student council room. This makes Shirota nervous, unsure of what to expect. Little does he know, when he arrives, Takamine immediately hands him a bag full of her underwear and tells him that from now on, it's his responsibility to carry the bag with him at all times so that she can use her power whenever and wherever she wants. Each time she uses her ability, he must put her underwear back on immediately, even if they're in the middle of class. Noticing that Shirota is still hesitant about accepting the role, Takamine trips him, causing him to fall to the ground. She then promises that if he accepts the deal, she'll let him experience the continuation of what happened last time, minus calling the police. Shy Shirota quickly stops her, telling her not to joke around. She then smiles and tells him that she hopes he'll agree to do this for her, because even for her, having someone else see her underwear is embarrassing. But she tells herself that maybe it's okay if it's him. Shirota, however, immediately realizes she's trying to manipulate him and confronts her about it, which impresses her with how quickly he notices. He then agrees to the role and takes the bag with him before leaving. Later, while in class, Shirota keeps glancing at Takamine, wondering how he's supposed to know when she plans to use her ability. Just then, the teacher suddenly calls on Takamine and asks her to read a poem from the textbook aloud. As expected, Takamine reads each line flawlessly, impressing all her classmates. When she finishes, a strong gust of wind suddenly blows into the classroom. Takamine looks toward the window, then turns to Shirota and says she's going to redo the reading. Without warning, she starts removing her underwear in front of the entire class. This leaves Shirota completely confused, as her reading was already perfect, so why would she feel the need to use her ability now? Time then rewinds back to the moment the teacher first calls on Takamine. This time, she intentionally delays for a moment and begins reading just as a breeze of wind flows into the classroom. In her mind, she imagines herself dressed in a traditional outfit, reciting poetry in front of an audience. Shirota is left stunned, as she somehow makes her reading even more impressive than before. Afterward, Takamine signals Shirota to do his duty. This makes him nervous, wondering how he's supposed to do that in the middle of class. And that's when Takamine subtly points to the eraser in front of her and says he dropped it. Realizing her plan, he quickly gets up, pretends to pick up the eraser, and discreetly helps her put her underwear back on. Everything seems to go smoothly. He returns to his seat and continues with class as usual. However, after some time passes, he glances back at Takamine, and that's when he realizes her underwear still isn't pulled all the way up. Panic sets in as he wonders why she hasn't fixed it herself. Could she be doing this on purpose? After all, there's no way she hasn't noticed. At the same time, the teacher begins calling on students one by one to come up and collect their books. This makes Shirota even more nervous. He suspects that Takamine might actually want him to fix it for her. If he doesn't, and she's called next, everyone will see, and worse, she might pin the blame on him, claiming he forced her into the situation. He debates whether to step in, but then remembers the deal they made. Technically, he already fulfilled his part by putting her underwear on as instructed, so maybe he doesn't need to do anything more. But then, he remembers her words, that even for her, having someone see her underwear is embarrassing. Determined, Shirota makes up his mind. When the teacher calls Takamine's name, he quickly stands and walks up in her place, making an excuse that he misheard and picks up both his own book and Takamine's. This makes Takamine smile, realizing his intention. She then quietly tells him to put them on properly this time. Not wanting anyone to notice, Shirota uses his leg to push them up for her. Just as he's doing this, the teacher suddenly calls out to him again, making him panic. He ends up pushing too hard and accidentally touches a forbidden gate, causing Takamine to blush. After class, Shirota asks if she did all of that on purpose. Takamine then smiles and replies that she was just testing him to see what he was capable of. Frustrated, Shirota asks what she would have done if he hadn't helped her. Without hesitation, Takamine simply says she never thought about that because she believed in him. She then flips the question around, asking why he stepped in to help her when he didn't have to. After all, he had already fulfilled his part of the deal. Shirota blushes and admits that deep down, he just didn't want anyone else to see her underwear. Hearing this makes Takamine genuinely happy. The next day, the teacher tells Takamine to collect all the assignments from her classmates and bring them to his office. Some of the male students then quickly volunteer to help, while Shirota watches from afar and does nothing. This annoys Takamine, and she immediately takes off her underwear to rewind time. Shirota is confused at first, wondering why she did that, until he remembers his duty as her closet, which means he must always stay by her side, and this time, he also volunteers to help. Later, when the two are alone, Shirota quickly helps Takamine put her underwear back on, while she scolds him for not reacting sooner. Afterward, as they walk through the hallway, they are greeted by a bunch of students who happily volunteer to help Takamine. Shirota is impressed by how much respect and admiration everyone has for her. To his surprise, Takamine even knows all their names. After putting all the assignments in the office, Shirota asks Takamine if it ever gets tiring having everyone approach her wherever she goes. Takamine simply smiles and says she doesn't think of it that way at all. She sees it as a sign that she's doing a good job as the student council president. Curious, Shirota asks if she really knows the names and faces of every single student. After all, every student they encountered on the way, Takamine recognized by name. Takamine casually confirms that she does. She memorized all their names and faces on the day she was sworn in. To her, as the student council president, everyone knows her name and face, so if she didn't know theirs, it would feel like she had lost to them. This leaves Shirota stunned. He had thought Takamine was driven by a desire not to betray everyone's trust, but now he realizes the truth. Takamine simply refuses to lose. As they walk, Takamine also reveals that she didn't just memorize names and faces. She also memorized simple profiles of every single student here, including Shirota. She then starts teasing him, listing all his traits, how he's weak-willed, has little ambition, average at everything, and, worst of all, is a closet pervert who's so obsessed with Takamine's body that he secretly peeks at her while she's changing. Hearing this embarrasses Shirota, and he quickly denies it. Takamine then leans in and playfully tells him to look at her. However, Shirota refuses, saying he knows she probably wouldn't want him to. This irritates Takamine a little, and she tries to seduce him by saying, "What if I don't mind?" Unable to handle the situation, Shirota pushes her away, insisting that things like that should only happen if they're dating. This makes Takamine burst out laughing and tells him that she was just joking. Just as she walks away, Shirota accidentally slips and falls down the stairs. When he wakes up, he's already lying in the nurse's office with Takamine sitting beside him. Seeing him awake, Takamine breathes a sigh of relief and explains that after he fell, he lost consciousness and his injuries were pretty bad. So, she used her ability to turn back time to before the fall, but even after that, he still didn't wake up, so she carried him here. She then tells him to rest a little longer. Smirking, she adds that since he rejected her earlier, she'll have to update his profile a bit, now labeling him as a cowardly, fake gentleman virgin, or alternatively, an absurdly upstanding person. Hearing this makes Shirota feel a little happy. He then looks outside and sighs, noticing that classes are already over, which means it's time for his extra PE lesson. He complains to Takamine about how his PE teacher always leaves early for his club activities without staying until the end. It frustrates him because he still hasn't managed to get his long-distance running time under 30 minutes. Despite his usual lack of ambition, Shirota admits that he would like to be number one at least once in something. Knowing all of this, Takamine decides to cover for the absent PE teacher and supervise the class herself. She even gives Shirota some advice to help him finish his run within 30 minutes. However, even with her coaching, he still can't manage it. So, Takamine removes her underwear to activate her ability and turn back time, giving him another chance. This time, she sternly warns him to complete the run within 30 minutes no matter what. Her serious tone scares Shirota, but deep down, he knows it's still going to be impossible for him. As everyone starts running again, Takamine surprises Shirota by riding a bicycle ahead of the group, acting as the pace leader. This sends Shirota into a panic because since she just used her ability, she's not wearing any underwear right now, and everyone could easily see under her skirt. Not wanting anyone else to get a peek, Shirota has no choice but to run right behind her, using himself as a shield to block the view. Because of this, Shirota not only managed to finish his run within 30 minutes, but also got to the first place too. Later, after the class end, while Shirota helped Takamine put on her underwear, she asks him how does it feel to get the first place, which Shirota simply smile at, her saying it feel amazing. That night, Shirota accidentally brings Takamine's bag of underwear home with him, and then got a call from Takamine asking if he has her bag because she wants to go for a run but doesn't have any sports underwear as they were all in the bag. Shirota considers bringing the bag to her right away since her place isn't that far, but then he stops himself, wondering if this is just another one of her tests to see if he'll blindly follow her wishes like her servant. He thinks to himself that it's not really necessary to help this time. After all, she's at her home and she could just wear something else instead. Running over just to deliver the bag would only make him look like some errand boy. While he's thinking, Shirota suddenly receives a message from Takamine. In it, she says that since he didn't respond, she's given up on putting on any underwear before going for her run, but reassures him not to worry, as she's not texting while running. This message sends Shirota into a panic, terrified that something bad might happen to her. Meanwhile, Takamine is actually waiting for him at the park alone, planning to text him again to say she was just joking. However, before she can send it, she's surprised to see Shirota running toward her, carrying her bag of underwear. Seeing him, Takamine smiles happily and teases that it seems he's finally learned how to take action based on her wishes, just like a proper closet. But Shirota, out of breath, says he didn't come because of that. He simply couldn't stop worrying about her. Hearing this makes Takamine blush, and she thanks him sincerely for caring about her. The next day, during swimming class, Takamine impresses everyone with her speed, even beating Ue, the ace of the swim team. However, to Shirota's surprise, Takamine decides to turn back time and redo the race. This time, she wins again by doing the backstroke instead. Watching her swim, Shirota can't help but admire her beauty. Later, Takamine explains to Shirota that the reason she redid the race was because she wanted to win in a style that left more of an impression. She then asks him which style he prefers. Caught off guard, Shirota panics and can't answer. Judging by his reaction, Takamine smirks and calls him a pervert. Wanting to change the subject, Shirota asks how she was able to turn back time. After all, he thought she wasn't wearing any underwear. Smiling, Takamine reveals it was her bra. Later, Takamine takes Shirota to a lingerie shop and makes him pick out underwear for her. Embarrassed, Shirota grabs a random one, only to accidentally choose the worst one. Takamine just smiles and teases him even more. After a while, Shirota finally manages to pick his actual favorite for her. But instead of simply taking it, Takamine has him help her put it on. The shock is too much for Shirota, and he ends up fainting. Afterward, Takamine teases Shirota for getting too excited, and then asks him why he chose that underwear for her. He tells her it reminded him of the blue sky, and because Takamine is as unfathomable as the sea, he thought blue would suit her perfectly. Hearing this makes Takamine secretly smile and appreciate his answer, while Shirota wonders if she didn't like it. The next day, Shirota catches a cold. On his way home from school, Takamine shows up and helps him get back to his house. As soon as she enters his room, she immediately checks his laptop, looking for his holy folder. To her disappointment, she finds nothing. This makes Shirota mad, asking if she only came over to snoop. But Takamine explains that wasn't the reason at all. She genuinely came to help him get better. After all, if something happens to him, it would affect her life too. She then decides to make him something to eat, teasing that she'll cook while wearing nothing but an apron. Hearing this makes Shirota blush. He tells her to stop teasing him and to get out before she catches his cold. Realizing he has a point, Takamine suddenly removes her underwear to turn back time. This time, instead of spending it teasing him, she heads straight to the kitchen to prepare dinner. Once the food is ready, she tells him she'll be back to check on him after he finishes, saying she has a few things to clean up. As she leaves, Shirota quietly enjoys the food, still unable to believe how kind she's being to him. Afterward, just as he lies down to rest, Takamine comes back in and suddenly jumps onto the bed with him. She claims she's doing it to help keep his body warm. But then she notices something and then removes her bra to turn back time again. It turns out that she was worried she might smell bad. So she went back to before gym class, took it easy, and made sure to apply deodorant this time. This makes Shirota even more nervous, knowing that Takamine isn't wearing any underwear right now. Flustered, he tells her to stop teasing him and insists that he can sleep just fine on his own. Takamine then gently hugs him, assuring him that she's not teasing anymore. She quietly apologizes for going a bit too far earlier, especially considering his condition. Hearing this makes Shirota feel a little better, thinking maybe she really is worried about him. He then asks her why she's being so kind to him today. The question catches Takamine off guard, but before she can answer, Shirota has already fallen asleep. Later, on the way home, Takamine recalls her childhood. Back then, she had no friends and often felt incredibly lonely. But everything changed one day when she was feeding an abandoned black cat and met Shirota for the first time. The scene then shifts back to the present. Takamine lies on her bed, gently playing with that same black cat, and murmurs to herself, "Does he really think I'd go this far for someone I don't care about?" The next day, Takamine asks Shirota if he had finished the assignment due today, which shocked it. He thought it wasn't due until after summer break. Takamine sighed and promised to help him during lunch, but only if he bowed to her and barked like a dog, which Shirota naturally refused. She then assured him he would be fine, saying that even if he didn't submit anything, the worst that would happen is a slight drop in his grades. But Shirota didn't want that. He planned to work hard during breaks and sneak in some work during class, hoping to finish it on his own before the deadline. Hearing this surprised Takamine. She realized he was starting to change, and she encouraged him to do his best. Later in class, while Shirota was secretly working on his assignment, the teacher suddenly called on Takamine to solve an exercise on the blackboard. While she was writing, the teacher accidentally bumped into her while backing up, causing her to write the wrong letter. This startled Shirota, who worried she might rewind time again, forcing him to redo his assignment. But to his surprise, Takamine didn't rewind time. Instead, she used her writing style to smoothly cover the mistake. Puzzled by her decision, Shirota watched her throughout the day and noticed she didn't use her ability even once. Growing more curious, he eventually confronted her and asked her directly why she wasn't using her power. Was it because of him? Takamine shook her head and said she was choosing not to rewind time of her own free will. She explained that if she made today never happen, it would erase the assignment Shirota had worked so hard to finish. But Shirota reassured her that it would be fine even if it was undone. He had already completed it once, so he could do it faster the second time. Besides, he added, he felt more at ease with the usual version of her, and he liked her that way. Hearing this made Takamine happy. With a playful smile, she told him that if he really wanted her to rewind time again, then he would have to be the one to take her underwear off. This completely shocked Shirota, and although embarrassed, he reluctantly went along with it. However, to his surprise, Takamine changed her mind the last minute. She didn't rewind the entire day. She only rewound enough to undo giving him that choice. She explained that if she erased the entire day, it would mean she allowed him to make her use her power, and that, to her, would be utterly humiliating. She then reminded Shirota that he still had extra assignments to finish over summer break and volunteered to personally tutor him once break started. Naturally, Shirota couldn't bring himself to say no. Later, Shirota visited Takamine's house to begin their study session. That's when Takamine revealed that her parents were away on a trip and wouldn't be back until the day after tomorrow, so he could stay as long as he liked. This made Shirota even more nervous. As Takamine tutored him, she rewound time every time he made a mistake, forcing him to redo it. Even though this saved him a lot of time, it also made it hard for him to focus. After some time passed, Takamine noticed that Shirota was still only halfway done. So she teased him, asking if he was dragging out the study session on purpose, hoping to stay the night at a beautiful girl's house. However, she added, it wasn't just the two of them. She revealed that she also had a cat. Hearing this made Shirota excited, revealing that he loved cats but couldn't have one at home because his mom was allergic. Thinking it might help him relax and work faster, Takamine agreed to bring the cat to him. But to Shirota's shock, when she returned, she was wearing cat ears and pretending to be a cat instead. She explained that the real cat was out playing somewhere, so she had no choice but to be the cat until it came back. This made Shirota even more tense, and he asked her to stop. After some time passed, he finally finished his assignments. But just as he was about to leave, it started to rain. Takamine suggested he stay the night, saying she had heard the forecast predicted heavy rain from tonight through the morning. If she let him go now and something bad happened to him, she'd feel terrible. With no other option, Shirota agreed. As they talked, the cat suddenly returned. Takamine then happily introduced it to Shirota, assuming he might remember something about the cat. But to her disappointment, he didn't seem to recall anything at all. Suddenly, the lights went out. Shirota wondered if lightning had struck, but Takamine calmly said it would be fine and that the power would come back soon. To pass the time, Takamine asked Shirota to tell her an interesting story from his elementary school days, like the fun things he did after school. She asked in hopes it would trigger a memory of her. To her surprise, Shirota simply smiled and started talking about how he used to hang out with his friends playing games. Hearing this made Takamine annoyed, and she asked if he had any other memories. Panicking, Shirota couldn't think of anything right away. To buy time, he asked if he could borrow her shower. Takamine then got up, took a shower first, and returned saying he couldn't use it, as she had used up all the body soap and towels. This left Shirota completely confused, wondering if she had done it all on purpose just to mess with him. As Takamine lay down to sleep, Shirota suddenly remembered a girl from his elementary school he used to hang out with after class. He told Takamine about her, which made her wonder why he hadn't brought it up earlier. Shirota explained that the girl had once confessed to him, but he didn't know how to respond. Then one day, she stopped coming to the park, and the cat that used to be with her disappeared too. Takamine quietly asked what he would do if he ever met that girl again. Shirota, unable to connect the dots, simply asked if she knew the girl. Just then, thunder struck nearby, startling Takamine. She jumped onto Shirota in fright. It turned out she was afraid of thunder. That's when Shirota finally realized all her teasing. the distractions, and the effort to keep him at her house. It was all because she didn't want to be alone during a thunderstorm. Just then, the electricity came back on, and Takamine then quickly stood up, acting as if nothing had happened. Looking at Shirota, she suddenly came up with a challenge. They would roleplay as newlyweds, husband and wife. If either of them broke character or did something unbefitting of a married couple, the punishment would be to remain single for the rest of their life. This shocked Shirota, thinking the punishment was too extreme, but he still agreed to go along with it anyway. Afterward, Takamine began making dinner for the two of them wearing only an apron. She told Shirota to stop calling her President and start using her first name, while she would call him Honey from now on. Shirota was left speechless, but after a moment, he gathered his courage and called her by her name. Flustered, he then asked her to put something on under the apron. Takamine smiled and told him that if he wanted that, he should know what to do. Realizing what she meant, Shirota reluctantly helped her put on underwear. Even so, her outfit was still too distracting for him. He couldn't focus and ended up burning the food in front of him. Takamine then sighed and removed her underwear to rewind time too before he burned the food. After finishing cooking, she sat in front of Shirota, feeding him as if she were a loving wife. Shirota was hesitant, but just as he was about to eat, Takamine accidentally spilled some food on her thigh. With a mischievous smile, she stood up and told Shirota to lick it off. Shirota was stunned and didn't know what to do, but before anything could happen, Takamine removed her bra and rewind time again to just before she spilled the food. She then told Shirota she had only been joking and just wanted to see how he would react. Later, while Shirota was taking a bath, Takamine suddenly walked in, startling him. When he asked what she was doing, she casually replied that this was something couples were supposed to do together. Seeing how flustered he was, she teased him with a smirk, saying she'd made a fair compromise, knowing full well how easily embarrassed he was. Then, with a sly grin, she dropped her towel, revealing a swimsuit underneath. Unfortunately for Shirota, that only made things worse. Somehow, the swimsuit was even more seductive than if she'd been naked. Takamine then assured him that she would leave as soon as she finished washing his body. This made Shirota wonder why she was being so weirdly stubborn about it, and she admitted that she just wanted to practice, so that when the time came, she'd be able to do it perfectly. Hearing this made Shirota a little upset, and he asked if she was planning to do this with someone else, only to be relieved when she said it was just for future reference. As she washed his back, Shirota suddenly felt something soft pressing against him. Panicking, he told himself to calm down and turn to look, only to be surprised that it wasn't what he feared. Instead, Takamine had prepared balloons to ensure she wouldn't accidentally touch him with her chest. After that, Takamine began washing his hair, and as soon as Shirota realized she was using her own shampoo on him, he started to lose control. The scent and sensation made him feel as if he were being enveloped by her. Flustered, he tried to push her away, only to accidentally touch the forbidden fruit, awakening his monster. Embarrassed, he quickly jumped into the bathtub to hide his reaction. Realizing what had happened, Takamine blushed deeply and quickly left the room. That night, while Shirota was sleeping, Takamine quietly entered his room and asked him what her existence meant to him. Still half asleep, Shirota was confused. Wonder why was she asking something like that now? But before he could respond, Takamine smiled and answered for him. To him, she was a higher being, someone who held the reins in every matter. Hearing this makes Shirota realize that the reason she had teased him so intensely that day was because she had felt embarrassed about showing her vulnerable side and wanted to cover it up. The next day, Takamine and Shirota went on patrol at the town's fireworks festival to make sure the students weren't getting into trouble. As they walked around, Takamine suddenly revealed to Shirota that she wasn't wearing anything underneath her kimono because it tended to show panty lines. Then, with a teasing smile, she asked him to help her put on underwear. Shirota looked around, nervous, thinking it would be difficult with so many people nearby. Takamine then suggested he pretend to be fixing her shoes while discreetly helping her. Surprisingly, the plan worked. No one noticed a thing. As they continued patrolling, Shirota overheard people nearby whispering about how he and Takamine didn't seem to be on the same level. Hearing this made him a little sad, and he couldn't help but agree, wondering if Takamine thought the same. Just then, he overheard a nearby couple. The girl invited the guy to her house afterward since her parents weren't home. This made Shirota start imagining what it would be like if he and Takamine were dating. Would she invite him over too? At that moment, the fireworks went off. Takamine mentioned there was no suspicious behavior in this area and proceeded to rewind time so they could check another spot. This time, they arrived at a section of the festival meant for adults. There, they saw a man feeding his girlfriend a drink mouth to mouth. Shirota blushed, thinking, so that's how adults do it. Suddenly, Takamine turned to him and asked if he had anything to drink. Shirota froze, wondering was she teasing him or did she really want to try mouth to mouth? Before he could decide, Takamine asked him to help her put on underwear again so they could move to another area. They repeated that process several times, checking different areas until they finally found a quiet spot where no one else was around. This made Shirota nervous. He realized that Takamine had been rewinding time over and over to find a place where they could be alone. The idea that she might confess to him crossed his mind, and he began to blush, waiting patiently for her to say something. But to his disappointment, Takamine had no intention of confessing. She simply wanted to enjoy the fireworks with him and was happy that he liked them too. Several days passed, and then, during summer break, Shirota received an unexpected call from Takamine. She invited him to visit a university campus with her that weekend. At first, he hesitated, feeling it was out of place, but Takamine explained that Aogaku was holding open campus tours. The entrance exams weren't until next year, but she wanted to check it out early in case she became interested. Though unsure, Shirota agreed. Still, he couldn't imagine himself fitting in there. The students at such a university all seemed so smart, polished, and well-dressed. Nothing like him. Takamine admitted he wasn't wrong, then suddenly asked about his future plans. Was he going to college or straight to work? Shirota admitted he hadn't decided yet. Takamine immediately told him that was the wrong answer. With a teasing smile, she said, "The only valid answer is that, as my closet, you'll follow me wherever I go." That made Shirota sigh in frustration, insisting there was no way he could say something like that. She then laughed softly and added that even if they ended up on different paths, she would still make sure he remained her closet. Shirota, slightly flustered, replied that such a thing would only be possible if he went to the same university as her. Just then, Takamine suddenly switched their call to video, giving Shirota a partial view of herself in the new lingerie she had just bought. The sight left him completely shocked. With a teasing smile, she told him, if he manages to get into the same university as her, then maybe he'll get to see the rest. Shirota froze, uncertain how to respond, and asked what she meant. Takamine then explained one of the scenarios she had been imagining. At the university's welcoming party, she might be sweet-talked into joining a club, only to end up surrounded by a group of bad guys who wanted to do something questionable to her. The thought made Shirota uneasy, and he quickly told her not to even joke about joining a club like that. Hearing his words made Takamine happy. She then made a deal with Shirota. If he managed to get into the same university as her and be both her closet and her bodyguard, she would give him a reward, which was the chance to see the full view of her in this lingerie. Just then, her cat suddenly knocked over the phone, giving Shirota an accidental glimpse of her whole body. A few days later, when they visited Aogaku University, everyone, including Shirota, couldn't help but stare at Takamine, stunned by how beautiful she looked. Noticing his gaze, Takamine suddenly turned to him and said he should focus on the university instead. After all, whether or not she could have a brilliant campus life might even depend on him. Her words made Shirota embarrassed, and he quickly asked what she meant. With a sigh, Takamine reminded him of the deal they had made, saying if he couldn't keep it and she had to attend university alone, she was afraid something bad might happen to her. Once again, she imagined a troubling scenario, being in a lecture hall, trying to turn back time, only for someone to secretly film her and later use the footage to blackmail her. Shirota frowned and told her not to assume the worst. He reminded her that none of that would even be a problem if she simply undid the fact that someone had filmed her in the first place. Hearing this, Takamine's expression turned flat and unamused, telling him that he should just play along with her. She then asked him about his plans for the future. She knew he had said he hadn't decided yet, but it wasn't as if he hadn't thought about it at all, so she pressed him to tell her what he had come up with so far. To her surprise, Shirota admitted, after a short pause, that he was actually thinking of working for now. He explained that his younger sister would be taking her high school entrance exams next year, and it would put a heavy strain on the family's budget if both of them had to start new schools at the same time. Lowering his voice, he added that he didn't want to go to university half-heartedly, especially since he didn't have anything he truly wanted to study. study. For now, he felt it would be better to earn money and support his family until things settled down. Takamine, however, brushed off his concern with a confident smile. She told him that all he needed was a part-time job, something flexible enough for him to adjust his shifts around her. That way, he could still prioritize being her closet. And just like that, in her mind, his future was already decided. Afterward, they attended a department information session to learn more about the university. During the Q&A, Takamine raised her hand and asked the professor if there were any benefits to graduating at the top of the class from his institution. Her question stunned the room. Even the professor was taken aback. They were amazed by her confidence, as she hadn't even gotten in yet and she was already thinking about graduating. After a brief pause, the professor replied nervously that top graduates received a certificate of merit at graduation. While nothing was guaranteed, there had also been cases where professors wrote letters of recommendation for future employers. Takamine seemed satisfied with that answer, but as she sat down, she frowned in thought. Then, without hesitation, she removed her underwear to reverse time. When the same moment came again, she repeated her question, this time changing just one word. Instead of "from his institution," she said, "from his university." The professor's response was exactly the same. Shirota stared at her in disbelief, realizing she had actually reversed time just to change a single word. Takamine, however, only nodded with complete seriousness, reasoning that with the word institution, it might momentarily sound unclear to the professor. Hearing this, Shirota could only sigh inwardly, thinking her logic was ridiculously petty. She then pointed to her skirt and told him it was time to do his job. Shirota froze, his face turning red, but with no way out, he reluctantly nodded. Moving as discreetly as he could, he awkwardly helped her pull her underwear back on until it was all the way up. Later, Shirota still couldn't believe Takamine had gone through all that trouble just to redo a single word. Institution? He was sure the professor hadn't been confused by it. But then, Takamine turned to him and revealed her true intent. She admitted that she simply wanted to take full advantage of having Shirota as her closet. After all, if he got a job and their paths diverged, continuing their relationship would become difficult. So, she thought she should keep him serving her as much as possible while she still could. This confused Shirota, since earlier she had said he would have to continue even if he started working. Takamine leaned in close and told him that she had obviously been joking. Did he really think she would seriously be that tyrannical? Shirota was left speechless, because in truth, he really had thought of her that way. Seeing his reaction, Takamine smiled and warned him not to get too excited about the idea of being set free. There was still over a year left, and she intended to make the most of it, so he better prepare himself. But instead of feeling relieved, Shirota felt a quiet ache in his chest. Rather than freedom, all he could think about was how sad he would be when their relationship finally came to an end. The next day, Shirota still couldn't stop thinking about what had happened. On his way to school for mandatory attendance, he ran into Takamine. This time, he noticed that more people than usual were staring at her. Following their gaze, he was shocked to realize why. Takamine's skirt had gotten caught on her bag and ridden up, accidentally flashing her underwear for everyone to see. Panicking, Shirota quickly stepped in to block the view and quietly told Takamine what was happening. She froze, clearly embarrassed, but refused to admit it. Instead, she tried to play it cool, brushing it off with a smirk as if she were doing it on purpose, claiming that dressing lightly like this was her way of helping curb CO2 emissions. Then, with a glance at Shirota, she added, "But if you don't want the others to see my underwear, fine." With that, she tugged her skirt back down. Shirota was completely confused, wondering why Takamine was acting so strangely all of a sudden. Was she not feeling well? Then he noticed something even stranger. She was missing one sock. On the train, when he looked more closely, his face turned red as he realized she wasn't even wearing a bra. Takamine caught his glance, quickly realizing what he had noticed. Flustered, she tried to cover it up with another excuse. But before she could finish, the train door slammed shut, catching part of her clothing. Oblivious, Takamine kept talking, unaware that with every movement of the train, the fabric was being pulled tighter and tighter, straining as if it might burst at any moment. Shirota's heart pounded. He remembered her warning. If anyone saw her watermelons, they would retain the memories from when she turned back time. With that in mind, the instant her clothes finally gave way, he panicked and lunged forward, throwing his hands over her chest to shield her from view. This embarrassed Takamine so much that she turned back time to before they had even stepped out of the house. And when Shirota met her again later that day, she was back to her usual self.
The next day, Shirota went to a cram school to sign up for extra lesson, hoping to improve his grade. While he was there, he unexpectedly ran into a girl named Ellie who turned out to be his childhood friend, and she was genuinely happy to see him again. Later, after Shirota finished registering, the two of them walked alongside each other, reminiscing about the past and how they used to spend so much time together as kids. During their conversation, Shirota mentioned that Ellie had changed a lot since then, which she smiled and admitted that she had, and then revealed that she was now working part-time as a model, which left Shirota impressed. Afterward, Ellie grabbed his hand and dragged him to the park where they used to hang out all the time. Laughing, she told him that she wanted to relive those old memories and do the same things they used to do together. With that, Ellie quickly ran to a nearby convenience store and bought a bunch of balloons. When she came back, she excitedly suggested they play a water balloon fight, saying the loser would have to go buy ice cream. Shirota blinked in confusion and asked why she hadn't just bought the ice cream while she was already at the store. Ellie smiled and replied that it wouldn't be as fun that way, and besides, ice cream tastes better after a good battle. Hearing that, Shirota couldn't help but agree, even though he felt a little embarrassed doing something like this at their age. However, just as Ellie was filling the balloons, she accidentally put in too much water, causing one to burst and splash her completely, soaking her clothes. Seeing this made Shirota blush because, for some reason, Ellie wasn't wearing a bra, making him wonder what she was thinking. Trying to calm himself down, he told her to forget about the game and rest while he went to buy the ice cream instead. On the way to the store, Shirota was still feeling unsettled. He thought Ellie was way too carefree. If it had been Takamine, she would have definitely gotten angry and insulted him non-stop. As that thought crossed his mind, he suddenly stopped walking, wondering why he had thought of Takamine. Later, when Shirota returned with the ice cream, Ellie casually lifted her shirt and said she was already dry. That immediately made Shirota blush, and he quickly told her not to do things like that in front of other people. But Ellie just laughed and reassured him that it was fine. She said she would never act like that around anyone else but Shirota because he was different. To her, their friendship was so close that it went beyond things like gender. Even so, Shirota awkwardly told her not to do it again, reminding her that they were in high school now. After that, Ellie grew curious and asked which school he was aiming for. Since he had signed up for cram school so early, she figured he must already have a plan and asked was he trying for some elite university. Shirota froze at the question. His expression turned serious as he admitted that he wasn't even sure if he would go to college at all. However, someone had recently mentioned the idea of going to the same college together. The problem was that the school was known for accepting only top students. He didn't want to disappoint them, so he decided to start studying harder in hopes of getting in. Hearing this, Ellie tilted her head and asked teasingly if that person was his girlfriend, which Shirota immediately blushed and denied it. This only made her laugh even louder, saying that if the girl wasn't his girlfriend, then it probably meant he was in love with her. She then added with a grin that maybe the girl invited him because she liked him too. But Shirota didn't believe it and denied it. As they were talking, Ellie accidentally spilled some ice cream on Shirota's neck, but instead of wiping it off with her hand like a normal friend would, she suddenly leaned in and licked it off. Flustered, he quickly asked her what she was doing, and then looked around in panic, afraid that someone might see them and misunderstand, especially if Takamine were to see this. Unfortunately, his fear came true. Takamine was already standing behind him and had seen everything, completely misunderstanding the situation. Furious, she scolded them for being shameless and demanded to know what they thought they were doing in public. Ellie quickly tried to explain that it wasn't what Takamine thought. To prove it, she pulled out one of the balloons to show they had just been playing a water balloon game. However, that only made things worse. To Takamine, the balloon looked like something entirely different, which deepened her misunderstanding. She then turned to Shirota and said she couldn't believe it. In her mind, he wasn't the type of person bold enough to do something like that. But to her shock, Shirota and Ellie awkwardly confirmed that they had been planning to do it, even though it sounded embarrassing. Then, out of nowhere, Ellie cheerfully asked Takamine if she wanted to join them too. Takamine's face turned bright red, thinking they had completely lost their minds. And yet, despite her embarrassment, she ended up agreeing. This made Ellie happy, and she rushed off to buy more balloons, leaving Takamine and Shirota alone, together in awkward silence. And that was when Takamine turned to Shirota and asked if he was seriously going to do it. He awkwardly replied that he would, if she was okay with it. That only made Takamine's face turn even redder, and she suddenly slapped him, scolding him that this wasn't the kind of thing he should agree to do with just anyone just because he was in the mood. Luckily, Ellie returned in time and quickly explained everything. They had only been talking about having a water balloon fight, nothing more. Realizing her mistake, Takamine felt extremely embarrassed for misunderstanding the situation. As Ellie looked at her more closely, she suddenly recognized her and asked if she was Takamine, then introduced herself. Apparently, the two of them were childhood friends as well. Still, Takamine found that hard to believe, since Ellie seemed completely different from when she was young. Afterward, Takamine tried to excuse herself and leave, realizing it had all been a misunderstanding. However, Ellie stopped her, saying she wanted to talk a little longer. She then asked Shirota to go buy them some drinks, intending to have some time alone with Takamine. As soon as Shirota left, Ellie quickly apologized for being so physically close with him. She explained that she had attended an all-girls middle and high school, so she wasn't used to interacting with boys. Because of that, she sometimes treated Shirota too casually, as if they were still children. Hearing this, Takamine felt relieved and told her not to worry about it, but Ellie insisted it did matter. After all, she said she wouldn't like it either if someone got too close to the person she loved. That statement caught Takamine off guard. Flustered, she tried to deny it, but Ellie didn't believe her. Just then, Shirota returned with the drink. Takamine panicked and quickly warned Ellie not to repeat those baseless claims, especially in front of him, and Ellie simply smiled and promised she wouldn't. A moment later, Ellie suddenly recalled that she had a photo shoot coming up. She quickly excused herself and told Shirota she would see him at cram school before hurrying off. Takamine blinked in disbelief and asked Shirota if he was going to cram school, the same one Ellie attended. Nervously, Shirota admitted that he was. He explained that he wanted to improve his grades so he could get into the same school as Takamine. His unexpected answer left Takamine speechless. She felt a warmth spread through her chest, deeply touched by his effort, so she decided to help him study until the entrance exam. But Shirota refused, saying he didn't want to bother her. Then, out of nowhere, Takamine suddenly take off her underwear to turn back time too, before he answered and told him to say thank you instead, which confused Shirota. He couldn't believe she had redone it just for that. Then he went down on his knee and tried to help her put her underwear back on, while she smiled and said it wasn't a bother at all, since she felt like doing something in return, because he was trying to do something for her. And from that day on, he began going to her house regularly to study together.
The next day, after cram school ended, they ran into Takamine. Seeing how tired they both looked, Takamine suggested that they take a break somewhere, which Ellie immediately took them to a restaurant owned by one of her high school friends. There, she introduced them to her friend Rurika, who worked as a waitress. After that, Takamine asks Shirota how cram school has been going. He tells her that it's been going well and that he's actually glad Ellie is in his class because she helps him feel less nervous. Ellie also agrees, saying she feels the same way about him. Seeing how close the two have become, Takamine starts to get jealous, and then tells Ellie that she only knows the innocent side of Shirota from the past and has no idea how much of a degenerate he has become. She then starts to bring up some of their recent experiences, like how Shirota insisted on coming over to her house to study even though her parents weren't home, or the time when he couldn't concentrate on his studies, so he forced her to wear a cat cosplay outfit to help him clear his head. This makes Shirota embarrassed, and he immediately tries to deny everything, asking Takamine what she's trying to accomplish, which she then simply turns to Ellie, saying that because she wants Ellie to know that Takamine is the one who understands the current him better, shocking Ellie. Later, as they leave the restaurant, Ellie quickly pulls Takamine aside and apologizes for getting so close to Shirota, saying she didn't realize it made Takamine jealous. This immediately embarrasses Takane, and she tries to deny it, but Ellie doesn't let her. Instead, she reassures Takamine that she doesn't need to worry because she and Shirota are just friends. And besides, Ellie is already in a relationship with someone else. As they continue talking, Rurika suddenly comes out of the restaurant and Ellie quickly excuses herself and leaves with Rurika while holding her hand. Seeing this, Takane realizes that the person Ellie had been talking about was none other than Rurika, and it makes her feel bad for ever doubting Ellie. Afterward, Takamine returned to Shirota, and they walked home together. Along the way, she suddenly asked if he wanted to play water balloon, where the person who landed the most hits would win, and the winner could make one demand of the loser. This made Shirota confused and asked why she suddenly wanted to play, which only annoyed Takamine. She misunderstood his hesitation, asking if he was willing to play with Ellie but not with her. Fearing that she would get even angrier, Shirota had no choice but to agree. However, as they played, Takamine intentionally allowed herself to get hit, soaking her clothes and revealing her bra. Seeing this, Shirota quickly realized what she was trying to do. She must have been trying to recreate the soaked clothes situation from the other day with Ellie. Still, Shirota felt somewhat relieved that Takamine didn't know what had actually happened back then. It wasn't that Ellie's bra had become visible. She wasn't wearing one at all, and he had seen everything, so he could only imagine how furious Takamine would be if she ever found out about it. Seeing how distracted he became mid-game only pissed Takamine off even more, and she immediately threw all of her remaining water balloons at Shirota, winning the game. Then as the winner, she ordered him to lick the sweat she had worked up during the game from one part of her body by listing the options for him, like under her clothes, her armpit, chest area, stomach, or inner thigh. This made Shirota panic and he didn't want to do it, but a deal was a deal. And he knew that once Takamine made up her mind, nothing could change it, so he reluctantly agreed and chose what he considered the relatively safest option, her stomach. However, when she lifted her clothes and told him to lick her stomach, he suddenly got flustered all over again. In the end, he managed to go through with it, only to become so overwhelmed that he passed out. This made Takamine panic, and she quickly undid the entire thing with her ability. Then, on the very last day of summer break, Takamine invites Shirota to a leisure facility to reward him for his hard work at cram school. Shirota is thrilled because he sees this as his chance to pay her back, since she promised to keep helping him study even after the summer classes ended and refused to accept anything in return. He is determined to be a great host and make sure she has a wonderful time. However, to his surprise, whenever Shirota did something considerate, like buying her a drink or getting her a souvenir, Takamine would use her ability to rewind time so that she could be the one to return the gesture instead. This confused Shirota, making him wonder if he had done something wrong. So he apologized to her, but Takamine explained that it wasn't like that. She simply didn't want him to put on a big front for her. She wanted him to enjoy himself too, because at this rate, the only thing he would gain from the day was exhaustion, making all of this pointless. After all, she had been trying to show her appreciation for how hard he had been working during summer classes. Touched by this, Shirota smiled and told her that he was fine, saying that she was already treating him well enough. He then revealed that he had secretly made a plan the night before, thinking of things she might enjoy doing today, because knowing that she was having fun was enough to make him enjoy himself too. This completely caught Takamine off guard, and she couldn't hide her smile. She then accepted his offer, saying that in that case, she would take him up on it and asked what he had planned next. If you've made it this far, please like and subscribe for more videos like this. Thank you.